كده صدر متيالتي اللي دريغ المال مو سوسرا يبدول مراكلاي مربقول بيلاو بيلوم بيل ما بيل ركلاي ما مسيل بيلاو President Paulus ma rogol senators, Speaker kanay ma rogol delegates, Chief Justice ngiray galaw ma rogol justices, governors, speakers, lators, mar bekkel other belaw. Ngara blur ang ayang almora hot charigi, mga reklara blur belaw relan sils. Diri kalmal sa recognize ra yang kompatatal di kadesa ngirmang Moses, good to see you. Adiregal el alsilseng International Women's Day. So happy International Women's Day. Abang kita luk ngarak kabinet ngartiang Minister of Justice, Olgrin, Minister Mutul, Minister Victor, Advisor Chengins, Omtera Minister of State Damay, Director Damay, Chief of Staff Kotaro, of course, Ambassador designee. Kita Gotrul kada mereka sudah orang ada travel, umrah luasnya maluklo traffic travel yang 4,481 ada amlam Michael Chekartir tax refund, 2.5 million. Brother distribute. Tiaw katubet sel more commuter are over 60 in Irmang. Bureau of Revenue and Tax motmok commuter girile tumuru sel $600 margo molto other sel social assistance, which will be March 24 to 25. Hindi kada di mo disperse tial officer gidra one-stop shop. I say cheap. Okay. Direkal kuma ada mesa Minister Vice President Oilo ma Minister Oilo ang artia kidam dayon na singari sel simulation and maral sel plane crash matige ngara emergency relam na press conference ngara emergency girela rescue. And you know we never know lasap kay samro will happen ro ngira gira der kaltmok le ngira der ensum kada kaltmok girela sum ngari am aklol goriol duba made alert tra trablo asaling area amla remote tra airport ma hospital gid ma just be careful. Diregal الصدر رئيس واسين سل الغمرولات actually من طول عمرها الأدبرونية قلت قدم لورا بلورا هاواي المو تندر سيل واسين هانولولو well investment forum الهوسترية Department of State مع Admiral Paparo سيل لول سولا بلورا أمريكا لا سي نجيريا لو مسا يروك تيال الجفرمنت رابلو أمريكا ما private sector رابلو أمريكا am gara part nilo matira igal Blue Pacific e invest in the Pacific. Tiang gida makatal mlogoni adra Amrigel wasi kami goto klol ngeso omsa Blue Belau disel dungora igal tokol hotel ngara Blue Belang adisina Taiwan Shabal adra Amrigel ada destrir. Mang ngoram le ture gida le due wasi ngadir kal sodal encourage investment terkamil mera Blue Belang including ngadir kal mle wasi al tora tuna mem help program al package doltra tuna mora blur amrigel why not ram dira dra blur shabala amara tuna ra blur vela we have to be open and encourage them in invest trouble what mang of course amle atela del al modadu some of the areas that we were able to participate in the meetings of course tourism sector the encourage tourism, and I think one of those the encouraging airline. So rather Hawaiian Airlines trying to come up with a strategy to say Restra Pacific. They've been saying a Marshall and Mera Abela Mora Huriping. I don't know. We were throwing different ideas to them and look at new opportunities. and sharing with them our potential. You know, one of the successes that I think we can talk about the Minister at Matul, so far, I self-flight at Tokyo Merbelao is proven and was successful. It's been full, reaching those projections that we needed. Selok the Sarah United at Trigamal Madu. Selsung full askogi to Plamonas our rate, Mumlamalamo expensive till direct flight and what's but that means that it's healthy and it's growing, and that's what we want to be able to see. So it's encouraging. You know, it was that meeting 3 years ago, DC, with the Chamber of Commerce, United, encouraged them and say, we're going to look for somebody else. And now we see the reality. There was some architects there, hotel investors. They were interested in looking in Palau. So we wanted to continue encouraging that. What are they doing in helping in Ratokora energy? Of course, Blue Rambrigel Amal, they're into deep sea mining. So from a security standpoint, and Gida, of course, Ruera Bomongise, Mem Salmungil Subitel Tamalitia Lungala, Aklangarigit. There were energy experts there, how everything from small modular nuclear reactors to mini modular nuclear reactors, so nuclear energy, and of course, renewables. Was interesting. We met some people look how to patrol. They have this thing, it's like a surfboard. They can run around in the water for 6 months and they solar, they gather data, what's going on in our EEZ. So learning about new technology and how we can better collaborate and help development. Of course, I'm learning imura adra amrigel adra tunal gamler belara 1980. It was a malsuagal help blur bela look was a albed el dirigal exporta tunal mura blur amrigel. Del blue shabala asorera tuna, and mal interested in how we create onshore facilities for processing. And one of the most successful Minister Victor Iceland, Greenland, Trigemal Sisi tuna fishery tir. They wanted to create links together of tir. It's a good example of how they've made the fishery look benefit other blue. So something that we definitely need to explore and work with, and that's building partnerships and building collaboration. Of course, last week aktiran Laura Blura Montreal, but before that akles Taura Bra Shaval, no sé del meter Chairman Sasakawa, Sasakawa Foundation. There's several things that we, of course, want to collaborate on. One, the upcoming PIF, the Pacific Island Forum that we're hosting. Of course, Sasakawa is an important partner. Tirigaya patrol boat, and it's other and then look at other areas that we can work together, especially a blue economy. So one of the things that we discussed, there's going to be a summit, islands and South Radab, and le ask again was a bogim dagal co-chair the Island Ocean Summit and morning June Rablura Shabala June 3rd and 4th. And hopefully at that time almost said the Mesangel, of course, and as Prime Minister Rablura Shabal. The regal Seratang are saying Rablura Shabal and Losedel look sign IMOU, Lomangela Peter Hulahan, ga ngari akong balaringil biosphere dynamics. Itiyang direkalo special technology of how to patrol our EEZ. So he's looking at how to do it using technology, but also using unmanned drones. legadi kita mesti mal expensive ara lalu top da dia musik plus and bayungin la desa sel el target dia la dil mal telmo. That's what we want. So how do we make it more effective? Legal patroller git. Minister, I think you just caught somebody illegally fishing, but we want to make sure that we the closer to the bed, a protected area, other than our area. This we got to be more diligent and gotta find different ways to make sure that's protected. Diregal no sé del mitringel director Ocean Policy Research sa Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Emitersel the Japan Fisheries Association. Of course, mlemitri del diregal di update Minister Victor was a girel guerra tial revision or fishing. Kada already kadam darula amsu amnatra kilo asi 30% no take zone is the appropriate size. Sila nga kasi dangara eri la ala ay gal tuna dit mel todo mo aldriar bebirara. But we need to have the proper protection. The maklat kagid rase already mla reduce. Tadri ka mla sa mga air belaw. Dito mal na reduce ay gal days tira mara blur belaw. And of course ang soal mran mong we have to be honest. So aktimul maklat saying that's why important adralia amrea del implementer telurora abes tulang also lol gerdang galiwe the export tangil bori arweb trablur bela bolungir el geria the rogui because you know I think one of the things that we're reminded if you go back in history fishing blura shabalongir blur bela has been going on for over 100 years. In fact siralme emperor Akihito en manar silsilba bilingel lo ay sirgidro ase es el taramal el mesel de lura blodron la blura shabal ma blura abelao tel tor omiyet. So kada nitra adro olbilo say we're ready to meet anytime. Look, let's move that work forward. Diregal sera uri urse kadam lorsel ocean World Ocean Summit in Montreal. Tul nitrigidro diregal mamodadu and we were on a panel and serve diregal help el team understand rase qotrulen close to trelal tel lugel aklangarigid ngarada alu MCC el healthy ngir rablulad ngir climate tergida of course gida tell those other Torah climate change and that's our biggest existential threat. So natara no say the look bring up the importance of partnerships in helping us combat IUU, how we need to use technology. Tara the silubi Minister Victoria rather aganada already in Malangaria they also have sophisticated software analyze was at sila easier tier. Ese tara boloruringin mo help pra legal all Pacific countries through the FFA. So of course kadora sa tial ngaram ta the host the Oceans Conference rabalingin la Canada and the Canada is a big ocean country and they want to engage in the Pacific and they want to help. So there's a series of ocean events this year gidam they say story ra belaw ma leadership ring na to ocean sa kadamla to pan et to the mora a shark sanctuary mora a marine sanctuary emla mora unlocking blue Pacific prosperity taramle al askri dem sadri tel tora BBNJ. Why it's so important and why it's so important that de kablugul the rule legal areal gida amang reom ila kasi the protect and that includes the high seas and the LD. So we need to unlock a potential technology to help us and make sure I get illegal activities amtro. Lastly, and this one Hawaii sirgidro se gida sila ngara blue Hawaii and direct no se the signer sel el agreement lo Miguel a Pacific Island Forum el mo host sel annual meeting rablur bela ora August. Semla motrok August 4 and mo August 3 mo September 4. Sila tangar hawa yung neptuka discussions, but one of them gidangani seldom nasing Pacific Island Conference of Leaders meeting. Cecil include rablur Hawaii, Guam, sa iba, uktikal include Australia, New Zealand. Semla motrok kasi Muria side meeting sel conference rablur bela. Direkal sila tangar rablur hawa kasi tial gidam namkat pagtira uktora investment, meda continue sel activity rablur bela. Kadiregal lo sayadal lo ase one of the things el dodangalia close to trela tial mel cup el morina Turkey is a Pacific Cup, meaning again close to trela issues ra Pacific are brought to that cup. Mga swadros per tial cup el morina ablur bela will invite the leaders are Pacific, but other high level leaders ra ablula del merbelao and make a declaration or bela el dobal morsel pasing pre-cup meeting ra a Fiji. Emori al mutual additional leaders conference ra Tuvalu e may gerogul lontid el mal mora a capra Turkey. Gidam dira semlo de kalsela Australia hostri di Turkey gilngel wase there has to be a Pacific component melang wal blabol el Belao Fiji matuvula part of the and getting the Pacific message out there. And we call that Leaders Ascent Dialogue. So we're looking forward to working with Australia. Of course, a PIF will get it say. So I got my meeting within a very short amount of time. We're excited. Of course, it was para cooperation or bekla adrablo. Tara, adiri kalul lungiting chairman sa sakaw sa gima shabala se. Do the kiara partners event. Artial material partners together one Nippon Foundation and he wants to come. A chairman as well Merbelao. Role partners they'll help the development especially around the oceans. Also present. Canada is Ocean X. Ocean X is ocean exploration vessel that's owned by Ray Dalio. Before he has a new ship and he wants to help us with research. Maybe hopefully he can bring it down during PIF and it can be part of demonstrating potential opportunities that we can continue to unlock. One of the things he said, I say, maybe you should have submarine tours in Merbelao. And so CEO or Triton submarines in Merbelao. Look at the opportunities and I say, Vietnam and Vietnam has nothing like Palau. Deep sea exploration, helping people understand the deep sea and something that they would like to do. They want to help in bringing investors to Palau to look at the opportunities. Lastly, these are always two things. Houston, el momitra Bombali, el tiradram legal amla arrange gid el momitra tir el sorry help gid aircraft registry. I know Matia matatal bill nga namdala Senate amno amrega 4 years last roll bill dimlagal the act on it elang na direct namdala Senate ma hindi adram legal say there is potential. We want to connect you with the right companies to help you on this journey. So ngania umtera Senate Senator Inabol chairman ra committee direct adra PNA Obanged kita mo meeting meeting El Alcils and then I'm just meeting them tomorrow and then I have to be back in Japan. Lengeluk Secretary Interior amle invite rigidel mo join ngira Blura Shaval leng ngaria or Energy Summit and so I'll be joining him there. Look omtera Pacific emergo el muter Merbelao. March 16, Happy Youth Day. We want to make sure we don't forget that our priority together our youth. And I think last year we saw record amount of investments about making sure that our youth are healthy and hopefully stay aware. That's why we have lots of gyms and new facilities. So we should make sure that they prioritize their health. And that starts by not using drugs, Minister all green. But when we talk about drugs, we start tramagigari. Omlam alcohol, omlam albu, bomange, omlimrom. I got all forms of drugs. I got it. So when we say no, we should be saying no not only to meth, cocaine, marijuana, directly include alcohol, ma tobacco. So really important our sensei our health professionals they must lead with examples. So the encourage it to say le all ball ma directly al hospital. Ma sel dangara classroom directly on the classroom. They sharing, you know, akplames activity de kalungil activity emal you know ngari I'm sorry aktir kan mitsa ona toktang emal o ay senang wasi mal dir kamlar belaw ikatman sa da tora help yakara al sel hospital ragmiu yakom sa da kasinoma ya all ball ndikam sikrola sa igam maratib mo songos. You know, we have to practice what we preach. When I think it's an addiction, but maybe there's different ways to tackle this problem. So, or take a time out, go outside, go someplace, but don't do it in front of the patients and the students. Anyway, lastly, March 22nd, minakota na kanga wal honorary ambassador gidra tora tourism madalwil gidra ngila bra shabal. He works closely with she works closely with Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Mengi ma President Tsunami ra Sasakawa Peace Foundation. And there'll be a beach cleanup para Blilio. Or you know, publicize. Sasakawa has a beach cleanup activity that they do, really raising awareness about plastics. And so Tamira ra Shabal kadmocho na kaspura Blilio and any other members of the community in Sorilmo, el promote beach cleanup and show impact plastics el dim la kaldil gido ay gang baby rablul me ekmer rabluada moria close cleanup ablilio mena sulle la governor ablilio dia direl organizer tel event katat makaloriol raising awareness about plastics ma impact rin mera adiratil de beth ma hel dirida vacancies alway say by ngirma da sende kamsal kamang moda do iskama time logera question. So dek pa open all mas kami mogera question.
Presidente Almasao. Wiltuta Presidente, welcome home. Long time no see. Kamle di busa mal makete Presidente. Ikalam dingel wasetial. Lul gurion la meso isbela. Ulmur sera spadong rasa February 28 ra lo mulam kamat. Ma kuradi ukerakaul wasing ngoram la ngaringia asubile gorgara parliamentram digel. El girel tial lo muram kamat no se tial bolomur tial makamade igel kuk tel mal medu el merkit aku makarar elang kidal amal mitu tel nasabed ma question nga wasing ngani ako ram de klimade kaul girel seigid iser om dibus melmut iser om merai de lesbe en ngani ako ra blam momdas uringi malo ben tol girela okut baklela tial albul badal bangaringi mitigation measures ra complementary ser moral mekel am sara la alu la master eli el musem da la semsens med dalang ilasara since February 28 ngara ko rama klol tol al dasul se emigo ko ay sara da belaw complementary mumut mok girel protector git lek madre mal kloa albul modubara abul wad tegidel tuwa usaklela ara la alu ara la gal
The comments are early in Mama. Tiala mo over 100 tala, adekal besil to. It's happened in the past. It happened crisis well in the from 2000 and around it's 3 times it's gone over $100. So affect la adengi, affect la alu mumri la alu adangaramlay. And yeah, that's what happens, sila nga rin mga kamad. Whether in Ukraine, whether nga rin issue Iran. So that's when they say are saying, because ang mga kamad issue, they will happen. What are we doing to build our resilience? One of the ways to build our resilience, Minister Turam na murabas. Zoom lang rin lalo, ride the bus. Siya help reduce the expense. The other thing that I think is important, I know clo complaint renewable energy. Why say? Rather senata solid subsidize the isere by the solid subsidize renewable energy. But at least ato bang nila a solar a change. The gasoring is up and down. A by bigger problem at tiagid. Sella al pas ni olbi el wal stobra PUC la adjust ara la dengi. Mo im na tigib drop pedim na alsin waral morio. Ela loral morba bang by ngania possibility PUC mo de kalina falu au dudel o maralu. Mo more close up PUC lesel currently sella ada kalsin change ara la dengi ra PUC. So I gigi da by gira del al concern del gira. But anyway, the good news at yagid, elal tutang nalmut el drapa aralalu. Why say? We know lo ase tian makamada hopefully in degal kamanga la temel a priority ram rigala making sure oil will flow again. A reality is yes, 20% tra supply oil ra blulada ang arsel el area alme. But that's only 20%. The other 80% comes from other countries, and they can increase production. So, President Trump was it's a temporary issue. It's an interesting thing. Yalulu ading ratang em lamas aran. But I guess practice. So we hope lo sa ilal blal drop ra 20% taklo ko komisar alalul mlamang. Why say? And that should be the case. We understand that a pricing tira or tira price rabulat. So let's be fair and make sure that the prices come back down accordingly. Degal excuse ra sa dolongas edim rol langarsi. I think that would be price gouging. So we definitely need to maybe ask El Whale mo Mr. Seged the issue. They need to be responsible. So I guess two things. One, currently under Allah, and they say El Masa Rala Dengi. Because already under Allah. Which means we have to face the reality. If they do run out of money, and we're going to have to find money for PPUC. Second, seruk tungura agagidale transportation, we have a bus and help para travel. And then third, Maria 600 talal ayora next week se diri amal help para tax refund. And look, maybe ease the burden. Let it be temporary. Sure. Naroon ka Democrat.
Ngaring yauldas rengalela umrul matletay rablur belau relal tam tel kriul batsis mani ligiro sa maklay gali igal mungol over se wase rada mom dengel wase ngrat letay dumut mokrinya bu kidra blu ra mul makal mente kidra mrul rengalela uldas lumesa mutok blabul adrelanga in the last few days temla get together organizer tira sa makarati letial maral me klolto kumda se ti amal klolto ko nda ko sa kumdangali sel el event tra 1973 se mamadra Middle East se tra manum ringel el
was an oil embargo.
I see. Sigda agrigo se dia agora esa government es leaders dia agora pla motor ka kliwa se wala tleta like el momrul podra community ma government ma kidel la travelur mo sa bakrigi. Ay agora
I think last model was it's temporary. Hindi mo eling masal mo 100 pero mo 80. We as media bayla ka mo magtaktara adrabalo. By dome sa get solutions already ngari. Ita continue mrura palo no more resilient mo sa del help para. So that's why there's help. Ngani 600 talal bo molari. Ngani tax refund. Daya help ngari. But it also means was indiri algiyad mumdul budget. So I know was ang ramo sira nga sa aralalo aradam na magikarem leader. So we just have to drive a little bit less. Alsum kada mura kamaldi hindi kal ad mamli. Kaduk mo terulad ang arawan na. That's we also have to take responsibility and hindi kal siya dito ang aral crisis and expect was government or to daw dul gira lakmo. Doesn't operate that way. We look at the situation and we try to mitigate. And we always plan for the long term. So, abay gira drama siya say, by the increase outspread our renewables. We've solved the problem till existing solar. More batteries are on their way. Now that we have a system in place, we're fixing the transmission lines. Let's figure out how we get more. Agi abay gira drama. Magaradalu till increase service rabas. Lam increase service rabas, el megel electric bus let's make sure we have more schedules. They can save. Those are things that help. And of course, dengue. Necessary loan them off. That's what we need to. That's how we need to budget, and we have to take care of ourselves. And most importantly, kita ngani program lagi. For example, dengue, material most vulnerable, get subsidized. And that's the system that we have. So,
dia kakura, aulda sura mo malmol mo mura exploration ra oil makasang ang malulong.
We have a law, why say? Malsum nga akong balil soal, and say choice hindi gira mo honest. Aulan di ka kung balil may, there's probably no oil. That's why they're not here. Yung ngani unlimited supply, biggest oil reserve ang Venezuela. Ilang mo ka makamadara Iran, malimis ito ka oil, mal cheap, nobody's gonna drill oil. Anyway, I expect say after sila daw na makamadara Iran, arala oil akala lutil moriora tial existing oil sa tamama. Alia, temela bayda na arala oil am $85. Mo Trump mo 65. We're at 88. So,
hindi kita pwede malmor pa.
Well, se kami la media giri loger adra gas station rasi. Ikan dia kalsal ridiculous, but
still also ngayon mako connection ra kalmetram digel. Ngamo mereka makamadar oy.
Tila dia mga dia ko dura adra Trump rasi makamadar aktiwa igal lo mesra fax masi CNN yung messaging was they have air superiority, they have control over the skies, they continue to bomb. So eventually, ang model kasi trigala dra Iran and send our drones and malagal dia lang mo sa malagal dia lang we're back to normal.
Tingnan mo, luwang lagri kung mayudan mo kan mase. Sel tula ang pang ako rin sa kung mention rin. Marala uri ring ilang mo mereka ring
maybe 2030, I don't know. Siya kamangal process. So, kadamru raral, mingis, other siya pa namru sel master plan, and then that's the process. A master plan na to real sam. Halat pa sa Minister Victor nga di mo en sera rogul real rekla.
Sulang ginawa sel maluil gere, maluilan mo dal meskan man mutul kairan merbelo. Sel mo develop para sel partra kamesandak. Se dia kadang modoni koseng di fishing port. Se multi-use port facility. And altamia ania technical cooperation project tergida ma chaika se 2 years. el first laruringar adra Shabal, lumur November last year. Es el report al top de el Alchulara 2026. Ese report mumsadra gelba sing infrastructure development plan. Aring iselul dasra pasing yang dos peringira tokor omnged, tokor aquaculture, ma tokor tourism. Masaya umsuba ngari al time la olgege da uldaso. El pasing ma teletelela fishing port mo angrang, teletelela gelguk tourism facilities mo angrang. Teletel aquaculture ngiril guk koram mo angara teletelel. Narsege del imol basyo. And then emoni selong erul face el mo developer selva sing fisheries development master plan. Masya mo mesel wasya umangedal ngaringing kita koram daita kadam la otil wasing ngara 16 el longland vessel sab el ngara aircel sumkat expandera 20 mo 50%. Tomes ra wasya klungel langi gilan May kadam ero ngara klungel revelaw. Ya wangara reter al sel belaw. Gigi del gigel mamdan al sel belal. And then ngari ngel lomes wasay. Ngel cook podol top der mara krer belaw. Mawangara retel. Ang di mo ada mengira tial port facility. Al ubeng ngilal bo ngia kora kombalil ngarsel ngia orur tratletele la port. Ngia kombalil ngarsel ngia umara al paget se al durok ngal ngigel mora sell destination, whether ang Australia, Taiwan, Siabal, ang Brigel. Ay kaya umsub, mga ngim, musub edil kora, daita, dumamunil, wasi ma, atlet-tele, siya ba yung mawangarang, awangarang, aklungil la, mogel, ada sab el muri. Ya, o kada ro lagel facility, selbol mire kay assessment, ya siya ba la mo, o ay sige, dalwasi, mo laurer o ingarang hindi ka damla lingi tertil wasya salmio de el ngara 20 dori blabol mereka at least pabira gal facility sa bedel hospe mayedir ngara al dadu lo bangela government rasyabal hindi tirak wasay selgem relit tal plan maangar le laurer belaw masyabal kay ngasul motmok lay gay gidem kadokora positive say gidel teletele la future development ra gel infrastructure Sulang.
أنا أقول بس أقول بس المصادرة بس الهوسبيتال. ترى منوصية الجود مكريسة نرى دور هواي. عملي ساينر سيل كونتراكتور نجيل نيا دريق المرور ماستر بلان ما ديزاينر بس الهوسبيتال. سيلكون بالي architects هواي. Interesting تيال architects هواي. Tigam din makatatal order bela. I didn't know was it. Igal original building na Palau High School agoror tira mi rule. KB Bridge madiregal tial capital ergid. So tigam le winner abid. Of course malle sorry al otisel partnership rather than blue regal matiable signing irsel conference. Lolo hotel seluk ngesura blue regal el mergid amsel الجول ارتيل ما هيلب رجيد الفاينانس ارتيل بس الهوسبيتال رجيد من دي سؤال منشونر سيم رينغ سولي آدم رجيد جيد سي.
مرا بلوم راي راي مالو بمتبان.
وهي كتيلور أولين نر أليلا سلقون بالي conduct a feasibility study وهي سأيجل pros and cons and then تيرجيد الواسي based on كذا دخل كذا دير مور feeling. إذا قد يجرد دي مرتوسي قدر عيراي ما كوبا قدر نقطع هذا مرتوسي it's the best place for it so okay مسؤولة مسيجي ده ضروري تريم تيجي سيامو أسكول أمور يسار يسديم لك أستادي أجي دي نادي سير وسين سيا بلول الأولى أروغل تور أمسو ولا مثل تجيب نام مينستير ما أدري إدوكيشن هذا هذا يسار من أجيرل أي شيء هذا Sulang.
Ungit tuta we President Kaumar Cabinet there. Kamle mentioner luase dia ka to tingel luasing malmo ingrangeng mom rektial makamat ia kora issue rar adarabalu tial rala alu of course hindi ka controller gid kita tingel luase rogul rala klalu molmuta de ingin di kautial mula se ngariala ra olbil el gilt maklil de al sabrilol ngas arala dengi ok ending ko to mes ang langmang ta rala alu ok mo ngaral to koy tial makamada igel di Trump lo ase 4 to 6 weeks al sukum mo mang tial makamad katamlam sa Australia el gora di maral mo dia kalu ringin ngarngi ya osangel administration el sab el mo mesel el tara option na sab el administration el mesel ngil suspendera taxer ra osisabella alu el help alleviate el morar adarablu adang ngaray gel gora different el sabel gora o mesel mool nga seole katamtingel wase arala alu namo ngara $7 ya minimum wage sa $5 kamle mention wase oy maral gi del control teteleda dongoy tawdo makora di sua kalngua o singe mersegi del letia kloa impacter ngin meregi mang makora di sua kalngua o swim.
Yeah, we operate in a free market. Misal ako telgiril remorstringi abay criticize aigal all companies ang arbela lo si tigal ngari scam remorstringi tira overcharge ri. Si abay si inmruri. Le waigel gulo koy ali tel $80 some. Few years ago, $80 some. Sadim na kalway si aralalo. Why is it that price today? Again, question again the last question. Nakal spare excuse na tax. This is all nonsense. We need to expose them. Of course, tiga nga right tir charge lang the run of balir tir. But we should, as media, this is your opportunity to expose. Or say, I think our prices are maybe out of hand. Some of the things in Maroon. Kita government tadi kabar through what you call it bol dictate wasing nara klokla. If these two oil companies in Arbela are colluding, they kalungin. Okay, manggiria they'll make sure they're being fair. I get pricing at tira blue. So sila temporary ngubti arala tax. How are you going to monitor that? Anyway. I gave the emotional decisions that are not ways to run a country. We should be basing our operational government on a long-term strategy. So, al suma ados peanges, like for example, a PPUC amo dekal sel cover, ay el tax bleda galek tege by help pra PPUC to continue provide their sel dengi, or sel reduced rate and dekal sel increase arala dengi. That say that's how the government can help. Hindi sel mo miti to tax. I'm sorry, I disagree with that policy. That's bad policy. We should focus on long term always. And hindi wa say, I think the stock market is going down. Ako pull out todo. You don't operate like that. You operate on long term planning and then mitigate. Help so. Como relieve tax lang mobile o sisibia just for example o sisibia dial mga tax relief ang yamang tara lalo I say how are we kadri kami dito ka tax law mga end up the benefit all company the benefit other below that's why you don't make rash decisions based on long-term impacts. I'm going to say, what are the ways that help bring el otros años? Hindi ngir orange, tegi dala kung mo tax sa ngir orange. Ngir mo understand o say, a tax is something, death and taxes. They're say amalura government take care of bekla. Hindi, ako na it's easy target. Kadukti mo siya, kam tise, kam ti ararakal. It's all bad policy.
Comme le mention, lo le Ocean Summit go masaldara uspe at technology for ocean stewardship and illegal fishing and so forth. And President Tangoramal makatatal doreng sirar adal rablilyo mangayaw el masaldal wasing malkloa erten morangawal ra osisablela tokoradaraksa. Ngaringi ako ra osengel since ko ngartial Ocean Summit and masada unmanned technology. Di hal sabi edel combiner ngil ra tokora national security matokora at besides other mol mutaygal illegal al erten meso isablola patokora racks because ang kalgatel rakal domes rar doreng sirar adal actually tospe el dial tigal waldi lospe aygal makitel gara wase malkloa ertrar local el morangawal. Makarada resolver tiyang aleng kamlak declare el alyel just say no to illegal drugs. So gora diswa kal ngaw the swimel girel say.
Hindi malungila point ka Jennifer egal surveillance ada dil bora fishing boat mora any activity murtra sila tell the beth mang mosed muy al sumo kita diri kal babra time at aspecto egal fishing boat mandiri kal part tel activity sila tangara Hawaii kada nomdengel wase nuk plan mut el merda tela el narco boats ra South America lige outport kadam tigra Fiji ma Solomon Islands ma Marshall telam mas aspecto wase el fishing boat taton mel mekmed rablu emro ngup to golem emang ngomakal el morablu so we know wase there's mixed activity mengira del el ganga se oriente and that's no matter what mark cloth bit the more eyes meaning betoka activity remorte betoka mro lo mes wase ngaraigel illegal marail lengari tigel di mengalak wase kuma maukti innocent passage ali tadi mengalak kalau kota marail mora tarablu ndi nsi ngari al olger de selom rolil mora tarablu ele sede gat stobri ali ndi kana ngara endi tadi marail el mengalak توتو تريلا مولغورين دير هذا السبايجر ويقول دي غادي يضم غادرة مين دي غادي يضم دايما مرتقال غادرة أميات وضم دايما مرتقال دير الله شيزام كي تكلا بلور بيلاو يا كرايسيس راه درخص هذه غادي نغار بيلاو it's all over the Pacific so one of the things that we were also asked us is something to talk about at PIF is coordination regal security information regal blue Ligado mo kasi katang artiang ngara Fiji ngara Marshall ngara Blue Lab I mean it's circulating around all of us tabay was it this is the problem Blue Rambrigela di mo sego igale narco boats Rambrigela man raktan motosi ga bes magit that's why amral bidurti ile tiga to product tertire sori lor trao tosi ga segala luk to bora yang asel motor igaro trolle and they can make money. So it's a big challenge. Sula. Hello, Minister.
Di so kali ano Marcel nulo ko nga President. So last week we had the mid JCM meeting leading up to the JCM meeting in October. And JCM is an opportunity every year for security, Palau side, defense, mga manigil, same agencies, mga like areas of defense, areas around security, Blue Palau. So last week we had an opportunity to hold the mid JCM, which it's a working level. Leading up to JCM, mamnaringan other FBI, mamnaringan other DEA, mamnaringan other NCIS, international narcotics and law enforcement, to name a few. Algo amaw law enforcement aspect Blue Palau, sa daigel lahat topics, and of course drugs was the primary topic on the table. So the purpose of the meeting and the engagement to continue is how do the United States help البيل درا capacity رجيد المسب إذا الأدرس تيان new and emerging trend involve التقرا درس النامو transnational and organized crimes ما get related the crimes in part when you talk about drug trafficking, you can also be talking about human trafficking, online gambling and scams. So, and one of the things is how are they getting in? So as we build our efforts sa airport, and so there's airport, ang nga commercial seaport, nga post office, nga ay gagidal malol, adyal coming in, nga transshipment. So folks coming in close enough for smaller vessels to go and pick up drop-offs, malubeng yachts. So, and how do we combat that? Existing capacity gidar ilang. So the whole engagement to say, to include ay gidar MOU sign up president. Also, Australia is giving us one. Ay gidar unmanned long distance drones. Al sabihin, nga ability gidar sabihin, al monitor, like he said, Mark-Clo at bit. We have no ability to be able to be out there every single day. We can't afford to be doing that. So, issue lang say, as we tighten our efforts at the airport post office, they're getting very creative now in Irmang. They're getting very innovative on how to bring in the drugs. So, working with partners to include the partners identified through JCM, and was yung makarang build capabilities the logi was sharing intel, logi was software, logi was training. We're even talking about boots on the ground, having FBI, DEA, GATIF, almem tangat kalbela oral mantra police. Oh, so yes, drugs ang atyang. We're seeing a pronounced presence ringi, la community ringi, communities ringi, may effort rin ilang apet patingin. We talked about that proclamation. So February 11, I believe, or emlesan or say the EO 498 the president. I'll create a working group, cell or higher level Minister of State, Minister of Health and Human Services, ngayon olbira kalula House ma Senate, ngayon masil belaw, ngayon rubul belaw, magi omisagel, what are makarang alan the facilitate tay galbek padingal efforts rigid fight tukula drugs and mo imol national response. So everybody's trying to do something which is good. Ding gidan mo niya effort rigid was makarang mo niya one body that facilitates and coordinates so we're not being redundant in another area engil gap awan. So a lot of different efforts trying to combat tukula drugs. So you see folks, that's a community engagement, roadside campaigns, raising awareness. So, this was the duli. Yes, it's here. It's a new emerging trend. Traditional in part crime portfolio. So we're building our capacity. We're playing catch up. Umaral man dapat sabay dal stop kasi hal na build capacity rigid dal musab edal al gambat ringi qodol dagat ringi build capacity rigid at the same time. So that's what all these engagements are about. So I just wanted to add on and was say it's here edira kalso kan ngaringa ilak kal message sa nga kalmura dirigal nga balum sorry dal part tay gagi dal tokoy, we're coming after you. We're working with international, regional and domestic partners, inter-aging partners sa Blue Bell Direct, customs, immigration, biosecurity, rangers, we're working everybody. Isegi del 498, the siamo overarching and leader ka ma'am, we're coming after you. So stop the drugs.
So, haladik share tiya one of the things that gumral wasing go to cloud to tlel, masel community involvement. Magdamaran mri asulera travelul not only Lorega Dasan, ding Akmadelo say sometimes in Dikalama say who to go to and who to trust to give the information. Esoril el barrot le dalo ng pirara. Mga amla duli in public say you can contact me. And of course I'm on Messenger mga mreng asulit tigiradal amla message na gem ska information. I pass them on to the right person and make sure their identity is hidden because still important, how do we get to these people? So, close to Tirala, it's all of us working together. Minister, I know some have reached out to you, And so anybody that you feel comfortable with, share the information, and we'll try to see how we can follow up and go after these people. So, ako na sulit at rablo maldi really el text na. And kadam na sulit.
Kahal gugara minister tuta minister ako may sa sales pati ulul sigira rulis ako mul sigira o kamate delat sila rulis biska ka 152 bugula se ngosong sa 1/3 maradang esara se sil bodal bang lauror bodo rurtauror tudo mes raktat alo ben raktiin ngosong saim ngosong sarat alo baradang aringi en tituloro mamalaro akum das lagi ro mes tial waise suku marbuli sa kiril angar 200 ikme all 150 di bu sa 1/3 malmring lur kumle apply kumle announce ngi AA ta apply uga ka multi dir 6 amora fire wana amora legal ma patron lebla bol time mo mesra o sigra ada motor rule mo teluror ela kaningia angara imra kana mo gimnora Nepal nga machansong imlemitra presidente se magigora no esra imra to ko Nepal amrunya export ra bulis marsol daw mo English mabibira blu blu lit export ti moraikil belum tomes ito ngarinya school ma-training ngarinya na Nepal. Ada English asenda expected tilmong selectra. Algot ada Nepal algot mal bagayulan. Gel presidente ti mo korma. Ako na buya history ti. Kelebla bol time to mo misaiga. Idirek lo mesra ada Pacific. Ngarinya ba to rablo Pacific especially ang ngani kini marwa Salomon sa to ka baklo unemployment tertir egit tal mitra pif yagi de krel trato kol se bedel multem school tertir ba school mai ka ko mol har tir mo titril mi om da sing namo kire te so kom dia ke forget it as we speak da so kom tengelo sengaria trial going on el ara to ra draxra buka adrasinal spin going on for 2 weeks mo amal kire de lo mesetiang lagi na ko komes ra wa temporary trigel na vital pulis para sel harti de pertira so much e dire seguir to rata tele retirement kon mringla o ngire mo yo me setilo se sibil ko igel ti mangkar mal ti kana mo klola di ko me sti mal to ngararael ngaramdarael bu komes seguir nana mo gire lo me sai kay yung ong igel ko niya luud relal store ngil tiang amal serious problem di ko ay di ka bil kami ay kal state literally rogoy sungsara aling na mo radra state complementara mo mutrawang esar mo ang yauram la mo misa da bul lo tera family di ka arat nakal kurse perlu mo misa da bul mas state harat mo bul mo misa da bul simral this is a serious maula kasi kamo mes segi del angkol ngusong sararat ngko sirarat dem kara trainer tip urtin mus below
Yeah, no. Go ahead.
Manso lang yung mga in why say ako na mention na say Dirgan man malagal talamala, you are getting very creative and innovative. Magito mong namo gina mo creative and innovative mo sa beda respond mo tiyang. So, bring up something already mula mo nga rin na discussion. Kamadangay, kamlangara progression at tialbur belawal. Mo ang makamadangay, makamadangay last time when it's time to call on certain things. Di mo rule. So, tial idea regional policing. Kada ko ram na start na practice ringil, kada mil sangar sira, tiyan lo marekal to host ringil Pacific mini games. So sel idea regional policing where nga ringi training al nga Australia, al train ar police ra Pacific, al mo sabi il respond al mo ra gagid al member Pacific countries, sel nga ringi maklol events or mo ringi way gagid al crisis. Hindi rin kalmla part na discussion ng cabinet, President Mangla President mong welcome na way giduludas. If we gonna na more say the point, why not? So in discussing again Pacific potential agenda items for the upcoming PIF. Regional policing is certainly a priority item maratora security. Adang igaro ko discussion ra adang igaro ko yung meeting ra Pacific when it comes to security. Adang la elevate them la mamasa regional policing. Mla mo dia kasab edel. Kada na mo realize and was saying na mo dia kasab edel di nga ra domestic policing. Everything that's going on within our area is affecting the neighboring Pacific countries. Drugs, they're being filtered through the Pacific nations. They're going into our Pacific communities. So, kadam la elevate al more sige dal regional policing. Makmal rin asulam al gidel tegi dal al ideal the pusal al ngil gidel la regional policing which is on the table.
I think you bring up an important point. El time ang tokar senserid, el adrang odor belu. Adabor hospital, there are nurse, adrang odor belu. You know, one of the things el gira open out the girela say maybe a jail. Maybe the patrol my investigation. The jail, maybe an area. Say them la adrang odor belu may helping. Lang songs are other. We're moving to the new facility and there's not enough people and more manners close facility. Something to think about. That help other people understand also. The songs are out. And I'll just share this. Gimlaria devotional tera amande te memlulu mlartia tiagobra na yang irmam. Ekmo ase present aulang adak lang artera la mnagir memlulu la kasi kamal masang. Makasi ka masang acting ra trip. Makasi ka di of island. No nga tourist driver din naman libis to tourist traveler pero. So hindi ka dil nasong sa rada material adal nedim lakal already rabay ali ang makalair lang 100 tala or sometimes $120. It's ngil income. Kanam ko mabulis. I mean, these are the realities. As the economy is getting stronger, people look to alternatives. So, and we are short of people. It's a reality. Sa COVID, ang ngil hindi ka tourist. Hindi alam to ka tourist, hindi maran mo kosong. Sure.
Minister, betul kom korable mention wasing namor ngisel tokora public transportation mang tiay dal blam ngakapin masa amoses ang tiang multimo ker tial public transportation and molmora papaldablet siang along iwal ngat mau al mar atal sabaril ngarapas rather than tialom kal tialmong me kakarak me ngaratori dala makora di sual mo to sumil si
Sulang chen malung ilakadim YC tial lakmun sa ngirma ki mo post ra gidle Facebook ra a PVA ma ministry ma entire MHRCTD au all tegiro ul Oliviu Rabas rangar along mer orior ma-oriol muramal gayok, ma-oriol murangar along. For example, sel momes sel 2 basel ngara yo omul mo otip mo ang ager ngania basel to the lomkok no. El to the oriol muramal gayok ngania adal mo oriol rangarul mo. Ngania basel utre ko lomkok to dra gidele ngarang rubasang ngamaral may el mel mora hospital drukol takar adal el me oriol. Kaya selpas na rangar along almel tobra 2000 mea di ngulmul dimle 12-seater kegrel van kelori last week kadamla chenzerngil mo Oceans bus melang namok klobas el maral may Philip according to him ngara 18 plus el adangar selpas la vehicle sales din so kalm isip mong namok klobas material ngara imlig anamo sil ngara bas ngara mon di ngara selotobra olel meng namomoy melang Patosi garak lol pasim sa edel el akambatay trial adal may. Hamlet tara challenger gide Jennifer dim nakar bus drivers mong ang gida Kilroy narsing Kilroy Frederick 24 years ang ngara military na muro banggit nge citizenship placement officer dire kalong ngara artel bus mong agim na hiran mutul terror adrabas mong namo phase 2 tel bus el president tamedik PC Gyomes possibly next month leading up to PIF. Gyomes hopefully mo sabiel mo multiple bus times and mo budula capital. lesel ngani aludo lo mungel sel besel hotel ngara malgayok wasir okya gartira de kalsorin mer oryo de blol mo mring gartil ngani olidiu poder kala kambati tourist mar adrabulu lang 4 hours regit ya omral mel pi fala kalu de president en mutan ngani bebera bas hopefully gadre mo part tial
May siyang riyat tablo electric puzzle ni. Nalagyan mo additional remote sa lablo ro.
President Akmal o yung Minister ng Virtual Torabas, imurato ko namo medal ko na kaltipul ko ng hira. Nakaulo ko state sta trabas system ko. Sta tra ngarkabasa ka may ang remit 6 o'clock exchange tiyang el mutel mo. Manewungil hindi sila bola kuror betul bola kan mayor. Punya pesirikan itu nesto pergi. Ning manewungil kamnas kurahaway. Every 5 minutes pas. Malungil ako das tao sa kaya in the long run roller ulitin belang.
I'm sure like together agree
Minister, natu lakora wonder since nga tiya special advisor Jenkins. So, kamanga adu nga hakoro omda swasing muangar ang bato karangal kal ngara school bus ngarangar along al mer orial uvang ngara orion murangar along apapildab malsugo mandiak asap eda direct kam ititirar parents mataray dalapun titriar ngalgil ngarabas school bus I mean aksya tara mang self family time dalapun titrin ngarangar along akora ti suggester same.
We don't have a formal agreement for anything like that at the moment, but informally, that's already been in action for many years. Both public and private school students, as well as people who just needed a ride one day, but not on a regular basis. So we don't have that yet, but that's something which we certainly can explore. Thank you.
Medic to earlier say chen walong ilakadim actually kagi na engage lobang trabera parents regal school to ni STL ang may dra bus stop na post office magi atara gi bom launch ni soon gidale weekly or monthly pass langal ka school di tada sama mo medek mo trot angal ka school sin ngarapas esuk mas rabas tiang embral mo mokmer dra true value malubong somewhere right there parents are pick up per Thursday el al time sel pas ngaramul gyo kalme actually ngani al school ngaringi lang erkan mong comfortable mong kaya ko ra mixed use ngal akmal mga daw ngal ka school ete di tadal mura anybody under 18 el al time etrigal adal wa ngirbang klorada pedala on and off.
President ngaringi o ngarang mo sa edal peya igal let's say maas maruba ka al kutamlo alenden survey giril gukto de moratak se haraw el mutal may hindi ako raw do suela o singela igal ministry bol sa il mala amasil mangar at ako raw o debit maldil ngar se el haraw rather than o makalel may mon mutra the register amla kukmran mo atak se may.
We are trying to kadamalas mo lasing grado rule ay el payment system ang bolsa del dimrule online im lakal Albertang there's a process we're going through already tax office ano mo to ka al collect online it's just getting there kami ra daran bay fa kung lamo ay kam so dia pa system ra kami maybe ay bebe administration will follow
nakakita ng ilmangal ng artel diril adara livestock tigilom ara kalila arma adi giril dia bakarda ding diril mal beto ka issues rar maklol adal mosing das mam lo bakarda mo giril lilo ase either kami bakarda may or kamo na finance pay so they finding ways el mosobril of course el mother thinking kasi musmam accept ra cash payment but only sel suminal sa ilam silo bro mong ngani gigid blado kora malas mong ngani gigid kora awareness building el gire del lawro lo pantrir adra blun mo understand the system Leng mo efficient lagi kasi either kamu ra finance mo kaharaw el mutro mo kalalmay or kadime mo kaharaw yung akal arme mo. I hope pangirma ako understand der segi del process el giblam lim. Musulang.
President las de kutu detail multu teklek el murka el gire langkang minister Victor ada mal madabar mal bulang le mal mering la dolang ang leke la mal magmama nga for example namo tarrak el gulay mis aktivo political buy no te la por se ma ole ka morse hindi ako ngel wasen raw ulum wasen pero ada umisar ada senator Taiwan turur tringi hindi mo problem ki malbang ringi ngadi dibus kadi mel attack ringi mo rang part mai kam dibus me kulingi telwase botre ki keles asel operation semring larungul sen merulam le kira meru hatok tumla opera sa baru list yang ralururi tiano mo kada wabia se kita dital ko oro di ko mesringin telki mitu tlo rak malo wa isa president at ko ramal madabar mababi akum da se kita sa em mok industry vela at sugum moklo ang se ra kalmitan mo to man song seringi dingal ke lamal itak se mai ram dia kasi mal may hat sa kang kira mal ko euris mo
Ilang kalar mo mal kan di ko lang langais.
dia malu berkira lo melanga angai se ngal ko kada kamal otrure len dia ka income ringi
Mengira mo kimak na bil wase kita mo ar may kita mo kal. Korati anyway kita minister will answer the question.
Kalle musulang yang irmang kungera comment tergaul makarin. Nagatablo lang kanya comment magir. Sel comment ako say. Makaram dia kabol beto ka ngaligal madabar mababi. Kasi dia challenge kita face rin ako sa imol facility. Kadom garo la kaldel badang la armor alsel. Mal madabar magus mababi. Masel sumungkok mabtog imong ang mong song si imong. Lang tiadi imol facility. Mong kadul kora lure ala say. Pwede focus ra imong al-arm al-mabatok ikok tubor imong. Di segid. Adra sir sa sorry el-distat al-batok magimlom. Segid at challenge el-aknura martial. Tamal di nga ra babi. To produce sa tal tela el-babi al-sila tarak. Lengguk ti babi al-ngari. Mong enough facility.
yang ke
Matsuro. Egid nga ra mal babi dabar gus elam-lamu somiwa kuk buda kaming makarbo. Mong segid ya challenge el the face ringi. Del bol buto ka somiw. Moda sa edel gutmoklo. El akbora lil armem malka. Togol black mo kasi. Tilgo nga first time kasi lila malka ngariya gire del gutmoklo. El gor ong irul time. Matadir kami kasi sel blabo mo den one work mumlam gutmoklo lila malka madabar. Nga mas el moria. Manglagi rin lang ko mong nga mongil. Umsulang.
President Timred, tial one-stop shop. Hindi alsa malgorar aga loader tial blay malpark am diri ra asahi. Makamamel mirarwa is malabor bolsal sabi el nga niya parking ar kamam. Ya last tel gari kile ko tokoram talgibel mlayang lakra 1 hour. Katamtingel wase Presidenta Seneta Paules amlak mula senggora rarul tial mrigel amla sanction ringi. Ngora di suat el kawa incoming chairman rapif el boto host ringi. Ngora di suat el ngua akora osingem el wase al sugum ang amerigel amla sanction ra Presidenta Senate ngaringi akora babid nged al ubang through your office al ubang SP lo misra tialwa senggang maral ngaringi tal malel dia leng seldo ring serni regal session ng gorawal lakal diga al provide evidence a ministry ra state ang los of look into it gora di swadal nguaw de somilgirel say madigay gitel tuwe kamsulang.
Sulang Jennifer ang otrule gidan mo understand ba siya? alele adram rigel au tingira adram rigel mang gida namlu selmora adram rigel elongi trase kapes kam information ma basis kami se ording are abirigel la ambassador mlama mo mira response tiragal urang sa vice president rasenet mandirigal milu selmo. But one thing that we have to understand is that tiang degal tingel belang tingil adram rigel. So al sorry tamskid al sorry mandirigal degal beskid, it's their choice. We have to understand ourselves. Leng ay tiragal for them briefly mentioning in more ambassador American was. Kung mata kang alam provide ang idin information lo ko kami will gira la source ko mam magi mola information. I mean, kaya di tingin adram American. Let tiap lumam kama mati decide rasing agi makarar alsel. Di kami lo kadar bela so min investigate uktil kami. Aiga ko rati one way of I think at the end of the day tiya tingin la present Senate mabluram rigel. Probably the best solution for hindi other belang. Like kuning sosing possibly hindi deal President Senate other Palawan sila maybe ngirel up directly nadadura rigel because it's not a government issue. Tiya individual maadram rigel. So we can ask. At the end of the day, it's still an individual issue. Lamgela abluram rigel. Akti share yeluk already tukon mlamar yidma maktiregal bladask. Of course, Ambassador Amrigel say ngara news. Pwede ba mo ngara news? Because that's what he's referring to. Along mlania til of the news. So refer mara yida was say yida, and that's it. I think what Ambassador did not say, Reuters article. There was something in Reuters, eh? Sige da, mga say, komlame sa igel discovery kamam, ay kita nga news mo. That's, but of course, kita amlusan mo, we can ask, but I don't think we'll get any more than what's in the news. Ling government trouble America. Sige da, agad mo understanding. And I think as an individual, ablura America ablura Allah. So each individual has a right to question another abluram rigel. So maybe one solution ask her individual ask her other Allah ni madudor other rigel giren. Sometimes they get things wrong. I say, and they need to be corrected. Let the orang satulloid or whatever reasoning. So giril correct. Hindi kalungil tuwa dil relitel tuwal klor tuwal mera president ra Senate marano nila other belaw egida lakadon nasing what is the basis di akti share ay gelo tingin other American mergid wasi ali dia tingin other American dakal tingin other belaw so yeah what's it yeah akmal agree la mangem ligira tokra parking dia ko nase minister tiga kada mo isya tiga tir al employees ti al parking lot kada makarani hindi ngaria agong marani customer is king mungiri tiga al rugul hada lawyer tir one stop shop al mamdingel wase ngar alir al mopar kara gura mal dir kolme ira da tura press conference kon mesel morsay ba aus al parking lot etirak manera se temur al ti al building al minister nutul mlire la pargarti so mungira dal make sure kada mga minister tour ma officer SS ma hopefully torrents leng akmo batro la parginat mo chegal wa setiang mga alsum trigal director tir malada sir mula urire nga katop dugul ma batro hindi kada sengal to ka dospel mo da durti ding gira dal mo understand ase gida provide service mo adra blue yada parking ra adra blue parking gida ngara aguran dan mal tol parking el selment moral mo se parking empty se mo siya sin time one car parked I get top trigal employees ti rogon morse mededa sa parking lot tergit mang I think ang ginan mo ni Sir Rungudo la sing tiga Rungudo ra other belaw. Magado dos ra other belaw ma aurel do mo koni. Chief of Staff ng Gemlim.
Ako mesendital, President.
Oya
Ako,
ng Gemlim.
ako
Okay.
nasa,
Yeah,
dital
I
oya,
get-
lap like isal partners
Okay,
day.
good. Okay. Ganda make sure. So sulang ra reminder hindi rin kalgina del kaklat. Iya. Nagmungo siya singa parila di ba o tilo kasi. Okay. And lastly, gira del recognize was el alsil sing Maria adal tira I'm sure adra blur berabe kalsil se gira recognize tireng mbur der tir. So happy birthday mora Jenny Jonas ngara MHHS ngara ngatara nur sergir ngada mrenga sulel Wayne Wong ngara Nemo Wahid Pagataut ngara public safety Buigranar mrenga sulel dire ngara Maria Rule ngara archives. So happy birthday kita man mrenga sulel adra medial artiang yang matoka yung will question ma statement tiluk plem help pergi ma advice sulang yang irmang blol complete ka press conference git selome ma blol mem sel yang kumari discussion sel over yung tol sure ko di akmal mrenga sulem adra bela luk no sil tunin lang ma 2 weeks from now poda kasoes ko man sulang ya de solo makal tanga travel wat marbek la adra bela